say Ms. Harris is now leading Mr. Trump among likely voters in Arizona 50-45 and has even edged ahead of Mr. Trump in North Carolina, a state Mr. Trump won 4 years ago, while narrowing his lead significantly in Georgia and Nevada. What is the administration doing, the campaign doing with that data as it comes in? I mean, these are critical states that you got to have a path to 270. Are there any pivots? Are there any, reconfiguring of what you're doing in the strategy? Because you talk about your message, but is it not landing?
Well, let me say two things about this, Shannon. First of all, the polls tend to radically overstate Democrats. We certainly saw that during the polling of summer of 2020 and summer of 2016. And of course, a lot of those polls were wrong when it came to Election Day. The second thing I'll say, Shannon, is what we have certainly seen is that Kamala Harris got a bit of a sugar high a couple of weeks ago. But what we've actually seen from our own internal data, Shannon, is that Kamala Harris has already leveled off. If you talk to insiders in the Kamala Harris campaign, they're very worried about where they are because the American people just don't buy the idea that Kamala Harris, who has been vice president for 3.5 years, is somehow going to tackle the inflation crisis in a way tomorrow that she hasn't for the past 1,300 days. Giving Kamala Harris control over inflation policy, Shannon, it's like giving Jeffrey Epstein control over human trafficking policy. The American people are much smarter than that. They don't buy the idea that Kamala Harris represents a fresh start.
Time out. Time out. That was a mic drop. That was a mic drop. Did you hear the comparison? Do you agree with the comparison? Let me run this back just a little bit. The comparison was so spot on, in my opinion, but non-believers won't believe it. Regardless, I don't care how much sense you beat into their head, into their minds. I don't care how much proof you show them. They will still choose delusion because Orange Man bad. That's it. Listen to this thing one more time. This is a mic drop, man. This is absolutely hilarious, bro. And shout out to JD Vance. I was thinking that Trump might not have picked the right guy. I was thinking he might not have picked the right guy. I don't know, man. I don't know. But then JD Vance started going on every single show that will have him. Oh, come on, interview me. I got some things to say. Interview me. I don't mind. Interview me. Let's go. Come on, you want to interview me? It don't have to be scripted. Ask me whatever you want to ask me. Let's go. We have been teaching people how to grow online. It's been absolutely amazing. We have 3 people who have been able to reach monetization in less than 30 days. Growing YouTube channels, some from 0 people. We have one guy who had 2 subscribers before he started working with me. He started helping him. His views went up 4.8 million%. We're super excited. If anybody ever want to grow on YouTube, you reach out to me with the word coach. How come Kamala won't do that? It's because they got to keep her in a bubble. She's bubble girl right now, and they got to keep her protected. She might say something that might ruin it because it means trillions of dollars to some people. We already know that. They're patting their pockets. Huh? Yeah. And all of the content creators out there that's willing to interview her are being paid out the ass. Okay, let's continue.
Any pivots? Are there any, reconfiguring of what you're doing in the strategy? Because you talk about your message, but is it not landing?
Hit the like button.
Well, let me say two things about this, Shannon. First of all, the polls tend to radically overstate Democrats. We certainly saw that during the polling of summer of 2020 and summer of 2016. And of course, a lot of those polls were wrong when it came to Election Day. The second thing I'll say, Shannon, is what we have certainly seen is that Kamala Harris got a bit of a sugar high a couple of weeks ago. But what we've actually seen from our own internal data, Shannon, is that Kamala Harris has already leveled off. If you talk to insiders in the Kamala Harris campaign, they're very worried about where they are because the American people just don't buy the idea that Kamala Harris, who has been vice president for 3.5 years, is somehow going to tackle the inflation crisis in a way tomorrow that she hasn't for the past 1,300 days. Giving Kamala Harris control over inflation policy, Shannon, it's like giving Jeffrey Epstein control over human trafficking policy. The American people are much smarter than that. They don't buy the idea that Kamala Harris represents a fresh start. She is more of the same. It is doubling down on the failed policies of the Harris administration to give Kamala Harris a promotion rather than to fire her, which is what I think most Americans are going to do on November.
Listen to me. That was a mic drop. Here she is talking about the way she's going to fix the economy is through regulating price gouging with other corporations. She's going to attack capitalism. That's the way that she's going to do it. But guess what? What happened, the only thing you got to do to address more money being placed back into the pockets of American citizens is removing that money from the pocketbooks of illegal immigrants that you guys have opened the borders to, invited in, and have given credit cards to so that they can go spend and do whatever the hell they want to do, where you have citizens in Colorado, citizens in Chicago, citizens in New York who have all been submitting videos all over the internet saying, man, I was in the grocery store standing behind this family of illegal immigrants and they purchased their food, and I'm looking down at what they have left on their card, and they have like $10,000 left on their card. So if they're giving that to one, how are they able to give that to all of these illegal immigrants, bruh? How? And then you got black women who are business women who are crying to Kamala like, how could you do this to me? I've been trying to get a business loan and I can't get a business loan, but you're giving all of this to these illegal immigrants. Please make that make sense. Please make that make sense. JD Vance, you are on fire, bruh. I did not know whether or not you would be a good pick. I didn't know if you would be a good pick. But bro, it seemed like you was a good pick. It seems like you was a good pick, bro. Because he is on fire. Now, he is on Fox News, and you would think that it will be a softball type of situation. No, not at all. This young lady right here is just letting them know, no. The polls are showing that people are giving into her rhetoric. They're believing what she's saying. And listen to how he comes back, man. This is awesome. All right, let's go.
How does that not line up then with another poll we got out this morning? Washington Post, ABC, they're giving the vice president nationally a 4 to 5 point lead over. I mean, those are new numbers. So if you think the momentum is not swinging, or your internal polls are suggesting differently, every other poll that's been released has shown great momentum in her direction.
You know, Shannon, I think there are a lot of polls that actually show her stagnating and leveling off. Of course, ABC Washington Post was a wildly inaccurate pollster in the summer of 2020. And look, if you see the numbers that we're seeing and you actually talk to the American people, I feel extremely confident that we're going to be in the right place come November.
You know what? And I hate to do this, but I don't even want to talk about the polls, because the polls, I don't even believe the polls, to be honest with you. People will sway towards whatever they want you to sway toward. I'm more concerned with actual policies. I want to see how people actually feel about how she represents herself, or how she represents this nation. And that's more important to me. That's more important to me. People are a little dilly and they want to be led in one way or the other without seeing what's actual or factual. The people who they claim to be on these polls, the polls are going crazy for Kamala. They're loving her so much. I just want to ask you one thing. What has she said that has resonated with you? What has she said that made sense to you? Huh?